This is Global Ummah Unity, faith, history, and truth in one voice.
For generations, many people in the West grew up with a carefully repeated image of Islam, an image shaped by headlines, films, political rhetoric, and inherited fear. Islam was not introduced as a faith, it was introduced as a threat. From a young age, countless non-Muslims were conditioned to associate Islam with violence, instability, and extremism, often without ever opening the Qur'an or speaking to a Muslim. This narrative was not accidental, it was consistent, and repetition creates belief. But something has begun to change. In recent years, more Western minds have started to awaken, not because they were preached to, but because the narrative stopped matching reality. People began noticing a contradiction. If Islam is inherently violent, why are the majority of victims in modern conflicts Muslim civilians? If Islam promotes terror, why do Muslim societies historically emphasize law, ethics, and scholarship? If Islam is backward, why did it preserve science, medicine, and philosophy when much of the world fell into intellectual darkness? These questions lingered. And once people began asking them honestly, the inherited fear started to weaken. They began reading history instead of headlines. They discovered that for centuries, Muslim civilizations were centers of learning, from Baghdad to Cordoba, protecting libraries, translating knowledge, and advancing science. This was not propaganda, it was recorded history. Yet this legacy was rarely mentioned in modern media. Instead, Islam was constantly framed through isolated acts, stripped of political context, stripped of history, and stripped of humanity. And many Westerners grew tired of this imbalance. They became exhausted by fear they never personally investigated, tired of being told who to hate before being allowed to understand, tired of repeating beliefs they did not choose. As this fatigue grew, curiosity replaced fear. And when they finally encountered Islam directly, through the Qur'an, through conversations, through reflection, they found something unexpected. They found a faith that speaks to reason. The Qur'an does not shy away from questioning, it commands it. Do they not reflect? Do they not think? Islam does not demand blind obedience, it demands awareness. And this is where awakening begins.
What many Western minds discover is not the Islam they were warned about. They encounter a religion that insists on justice, even toward those who oppose it. Allah commands in the Qur'an, "Do not let the hatred of a people prevent you from being just. Be just. That is closer to righteousness." Qur'an 5:8. For many readers, this verse is shocking because it contradicts everything they were told. This is not the language of extremism. It is the language of moral restraint. They also learn an uncomfortable historical truth, that Muslims far more often than not have been victims rather than perpetrators of large-scale violence, from colonial occupations to modern wars. Yet this context was rarely taught. As Western minds awaken, they realize they were not taught history, they were taught framing. And as framing collapses, sincerity emerges. The Qur'an already described this resistance to truth. They wish to extinguish the light of Allah with their mouths, but Allah will perfect His light, even if the disbelievers hate it. Qur'an 6:8. For many, this verse suddenly feels present, not ancient, because despite decades of fear campaigns, Islam has not disappeared. It has grown, quietly, globally, persistently. More people are reading the Qur'an in private, More are questioning what they inherited. More are realizing that fear thrives on ignorance, and when ignorance fades, so does hatred. Some converts describe their journey not as rebellion, but as honesty. An honesty that required unlearning what family, society, and media had normalized. They did not abandon their values, they rediscovered them. Islam, after all, does not demand belief without reason. The Qur'an asks humanity directly, "Will you not then think?" Qur'an 6:50. And that question alone has been enough to awaken countless minds. Because once people are allowed to think freely, fear loses its grip. The fear was never truly about Islam. It was fear of people seeing beyond the narrative. And now that narrative is being questioned, one awakened mind at a time.
Thanks so much for watching this video on global Ummah unity. If you learned something new today, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's keep uncovering the untold stories of the Islamic world together. See you in the next one, inshallah.